Hello, signing on for today's lesson. If you saw the quote from earlier, it says, sometimes what you think is a no, wait, I left something out. Sometimes what you initially think is a no may actually be a not right now. Don't be so quick to give up when faced with adversity. This is a lesson for me, of course. I've lived it, and I have a story to go with it, as I always do with my stories. So, this one deals with my career, as do many of my stories. I guess I can examine what that's all about. But anyway, we learn our life lessons in all different areas of our lives. That's why they're called life lessons. And so, this was not several years ago, but long enough ago. And we were living in a different state. We used to live in Tennessee initially. We're living in Tennessee now for the second time. But we were living in a different state and were wanting to move back to Tennessee. So I launched a job search and got some traction, got multiple interviews, came to Tennessee and interviewed for like three different positions. I thought the interviews went very well. The feedback I got was that the interviews went very well, and I was expecting a job offer from at least one of the interviews and got none. Yeah, you heard that right. Got none. Zero job offers after interviews. Got to travel, visit Tennessee, so that was nice, but no job offers. And so I remember thinking, like, you know what? I really thought that we were supposed to go back to Tennessee, but I've learned enough to know that when you trust God to kind of orchestrate your life, things are going to work out the way they're supposed to if you leave it in His hands. So I remember thinking, like, okay, so maybe we're not supposed to go back to Tennessee right now. So I pursued something different, still just wanting to leave the state and move to a different state. So I applied for a different job in a different state and got that job offer, I should say, and then the job. And so we ended up moving to that state. And we lived there for about 3.5 years, but we knew that our goal was to eventually come back to Tennessee because this is where we wanted to settle. And so, right around the three ish kind of year mark, I started getting like, the itch of, yeah, you know what? I think it might be the time. And so, literally, just started kind of just in passing at first, kind of looking to see what was out there, what I might want to do the whole bit. And around probably like August, September, I said, okay, it's time for me to kind of buckle down and get serious about my search. My mom had said that if we were going anywhere, she would like to, be there and settled by Christmas. So by August, September, I need to start getting serious. So September ish, I started looking seriously for, employment, new employment. I already had a job. And I remember telling the ladies that were on my staff at the time that I was planning to leave the position I was in. Didn't want them to be blindsided, wanted them to know what was coming. And I remember one of the ladies kind of saying, like, oh, it's September. You'll probably be here, I would imagine, at least through the academic year. I was working at a university in North Carolina. And you'll probably be here at least through the academic year because it's already September. There's no way you'll be able to like find a job and move and do all of that in a couple of months. So I'm thinking, like, I've seen God do some pretty quick work in our lives before. So I just said, we'll see. That's our goal. And so in September, I got serious about my job search. In October, I interviewed. In November, I got the job offer and accepted the job. Late November, located housing, and in December, moved back to Tennessee. And what was so interesting about it was that because the timing was right then, things started falling into place to the degree that when we moved to North Carolina, we were living in a rental home because we knew eventually we wanted to move back to Tennessee. And just around the time that we were going to inform the owners that we would not be needing to rent the home anymore because we were planning to move, the management company reached out to us to say, guess what? The owner has decided to sell their home. They want to know if you all are interested in buying it, but if you aren't, they want to just give you the heads up that they'll be putting the home on the market. And I'm thinking, like, well, what do you know? What perfect timing. we were planning to inform you that we were planning to leave the state. We won't be living here anymore. And so that's good timing. And so when we discussed like when they wanted to put the home on the market and if it sells by this date, you'll have this much time, the whole bit, everything fell into place perfectly. And I remember thinking, like, so when we tried to do this before, it didn't work out. It wasn't the right time. So what initially felt like a no, it was just a not right now. And fast forward to that time, that was the timing for us to come back to Tennessee. And even when I said, like mom said, I wanted to be moved, she wanted to be moved and settled by Christmas, we literally had movers to show up at our house on December 21st. We drove out on December 22nd. The movers showed up with our furniture in Tennessee on December 23rd. We were moved in by Christmas. So if you're dealing with whatever it might be, something that you thought was supposed to happen and perhaps you got discouraged because it didn't happen and you're ready to throw in the towel and say, that is a no, I guess I need to just leave it alone. Don't be so quick to give up because, as I said on one of the earlier lessons, sometimes that no is in your best interest, but other times what initially feels like a no may actually be just a not a right, not blah, 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 that didn't come out right, may not be a no, it may actually be just a not right now. And an analogy came to mind as I was thinking about this, and this was something I heard a minister say several years ago when I was attending church in Nashville. Shout out to Born Again Church, BAC. Shout out to those folks there. And this young man had come in and preached a message, and he talked about seasons, and he said that sometimes we have things that we're expecting to see happen. And if we move too quick on it, he used the analogy of fruit, that if you pick fruit before it's time and you bite into it, it's bitter. But if you wait until it's ripe, RIPE, that fruit tastes pretty good. So he said there's nothing that, illegitimizes the fruit except that the fruit isn't ripe yet. So he said, so what's RIGHT, right, needs to also be RIPE, ripe. Because if you pick it before it's time, it's going to be bitter. And so things that are right may not just be ripe yet. So don't be so quick to give up in the face of adversity. You may not be getting a no, you may just be getting a not right now. Go back to it, revisit it, and see if it's a part of the plan that you're meant to have for your life, okay? So that's our lesson for today. What may initially feel like a no, you may actually discover is just a, I am going to get this quote right before this video ends. What you initially experience to be a no may actually be a not right now. Don't be so quick to give up in the face of adversity. There's our lesson for today. Hashtag life lessons, hashtag words of wisdom, hashtag listen and learn. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Signing off.